What's happening, guys? It is now summertime. Now, I know it has not been that long since I did the last one. A little over a month, June 11th, May 4th, but you know what? I really wanted to get into the summer, so I did something new that I have not normally done for these movie collection updates. I tried to go for a theme with these. Fun in the sun, beach shenanigans, summer heat. I wanted to try to create an assortment of movies that were just perfect for the summer. That's why I wanted to get this one out in due course, kind of quick, so that way you guys have some good summer movie recommendations to get in the spirit. Now, because I'm trying to get this one out quick, there's a few things in here that I have not watched yet. But like I said, this is a complete summer theme movie collection update, so I wanted to get it out while the summer is still fresh. Technically, meteorological summer has not even started yet. It's June 21st. So, without further ado, let's go. I walked around my used store, and I normally don't do big bulk purchases. But this time around, I really just went through, I looked for everything that just looked like summer. Whether it be a beach movie, a desert movie, just anything in the sun, or just that had the vibes of summer. And of that entire haul, I don't know if anything was as perfect, as I drop it, as Sun, Sand, and Sweat, a 4-movie collection on Blu-ray with 3 80s beach sex comedies and 1 oddly placed kind of romantic drama. But getting into the movies, the romantic drama is Perfect with Jamie Lee Curtis and John Travolta, which I have not watched, so I cannot speak to that one. Spring Break and Hardbodies, they are what they are. Hardbodies, it's fun seeing people like Grant Kramer and Courtney Gaines in there. The plot is so razor thin. Same thing with Spring Break, which is directed by Sean S. Cunningham of Friday the 13th fame. But with how cheap this was, it's worth it, especially for Private Resort, which is hands down the defining movie of these 4. Private Resort is one that is so dumb and stupid that it circles around and pretty much becomes awesome. It's got early Johnny Depp. I would imagine it's his first movie post Nightmare on Elm Street, so very young in his career. You got the Dice Man, Andrew Dice Clay is in it, Hector Elizondo is your villain. It's just a wacky, screwball, slapsticky comedy of errors at this resort. And guys, I was all for it. So that alone made this worth it. Maybe Perfect's good, I just have not gotten to that yet. Hardbodies and Spring Break, you know, they are what they are, but Private Resort alone was worth it. But without a doubt, an amazing summer 80s time capsule right there to really get you in the mood for summer. And same thing here, this came from the same haul. I was walking around and I saw this sitting on the shelf, and I heard nothing but the worst about this. I remember back when this first came out 6 years ago, and it was just trashed. Everyone said how awful it was. It's one of the worst comedies ever. And guys, I promise I'm not trying to be a contrarian with this, but I've seen some bad movies in my day, a lot of which are comedies. Comedy is the easiest genre to just make a terrible movie, and the comedies that have come out within the last 10 years, sad to say, I can count all the ones I liked probably on one hand. But it's all about summer. I really wanted to have a good Fun in the Sun update for you guys, so I picked it up. It's Baywatch with Dwayne Johnson and Zac Efron. And you guys are gonna make me revoke my movie card, but I actually liked it. I don't have any deep ties to the original Baywatch show, although strangely this does make me kind of want to see it. I know Jimmy Jameson sang the theme song. But 21 Jump Street and 22 Jump Street are always going to be the gold standard for reviving these old 80s shows into raunchy comedies. But guys, if this is one of the worst comedies of the last few years, then you're very lucky with the lack of really terrible ones you saw. This is perfectly serviceable. Beach shenanigans, 90% of which, I'll give it to you, this movie is made up entirely almost of dick jokes, but the charisma of The Rock, Zac Efron, the supporting cast, I was perfectly entertained by Baywatch. I have seen so much worse. Giving you my opinion as I see it, I like that one. And another one I liked because I saw this in the theater twice, which is rare that that happens for any movie. And this just came out a couple days ago, this past Tuesday. Had to pick up the Super Mario Brothers movie. I do not have a 4K player, I only have up to Blu-ray, but with something like this that is so much of a visual spectacle, I just figured I would get this, that way when I inevitably do get a 4K player, boom, I've got it right here already. Saw this once with Jackson and Levi, saw it again with Jason and Austin. Jason and I have grown up since the age of 6 or 7 playing these games. I'm a GameCube child. That's the system I had growing up, and while I would never really consider myself a gamer per se, I love the GameCube and I love Nintendo. That was always my system. Mario's my guy. So yes, is this a very thinly plotted film? Hell yeah. There's not a lot of depth to this whatsoever, but it did what it set out to do for Mario fans. Easter eggs, it's just a gift and a thank you for being fans all these years. And for me, Jason, Jackson, and Levi, we all absolutely loved it, and I cannot wait for more. I would love a Super Mario Sunshine theme movie. I know Charlie Day was talking about a Luigi's Mansion spinoff, which would be awesome. Gotta do a Super Mario Galaxy. I'm like a kid in a candy store. But I will say for sequels, now that this one was such a success, I do think they need to put a little bit more effort into the story for the next one to really carry the momentum. Now these next two are courtesy of a good friend of mine I was visiting in the city recently. You know who you are? Thank you. We were hanging out in the city and they said, "Hey Ken, you collect Blu-rays, right?" And I said, "Yes, I do." They said, "Well, I got my new apartment, just recently moved in. I've got all my streaming apps and I have a DVD player, but I have nothing to play Blu-rays on. I have 2 Blu-rays. You want them? I'll just give them to you." Like, "I'll pay you for it." And they're like, "No, these are yours." So these 2 were gifted to me. And this person in question is a big horror movie fan, which is what these both fall under. And the first one is a film, 2016, called The Belko Experiment. And I was intrigued by this one because I love single location kind of thrillers. So you think of your movies like Cube. Tower Block is a British film that I adore. Kind of similar to this, if you look up the film Tower Block, one of my underrated favorites. There's also a little bit of that movie Unknown with Jim Caviezel, a little bit of that in this, but yeah, you get people locked in their high-rise building. There's this voice over the intercom. The windows are all sealed up with this militaristic wall. These people are all implanted so they can be executed remotely at any given time unless they kill their coworkers, hence the Belko Experiment. And it's pretty solid. It's pretty serviceable. There's not a whole lot of... It's a very face value story. What I just described to you is what you get with it, and there are some really good recognizable people in there. Tony Goldwyn from Ghost. Michael Rooker has a small part. Wish he was in it more. John C. McGinley doing his usual goofy John C. McGinley self. So there's people you recognize in this. The ending reveal wasn't exactly the most exciting thing. I think they could have picked a more interesting conclusion. But I love single location thrillers, and this one, this is a violent one with the amount of gunplay and stuff in this office setting, and with the unfortunate climate with workplace shootings and stuff. I don't know how this would go down today, which is sad to say because this is 2016, so it's not even that old. But overall, it's enjoyable. And the next one, this one has always been kind of an inside joke. And weirdly enough, it perfectly fit with the summer vibe theme that I'm going with across all these movies. So it worked out, and they gave me a copy of Zombeavers. Ultra cheap, ultra low budget, but I appreciate not using really any CG for the Zombeavers. It's a lot of puppets and animatronic kind of thing, so I do have to give credit where credit's due there. Zombeavers, I've always been aware of it, never did I think I'd get to that day where I'm talking about it in one of these movie collection updates at zero discretion of my own. It was literally given to me by a friend, so there's Zombeavers. Every update, Paul Walker and Gary Busey. The Paul Walker movie of the update is Varsity Blues. Great, really funny football film. And I'm not really a football fan, but you don't need to be. This is a good example where you perfectly balance a character-driven, comedic drama and put the game itself secondary. Paul Walker, Billy Bob, rest in peace to that actor, John Voight are all great in this. Lots of laugh-out-loud moments. I don't think this one is going to need too much introduction, but yeah, Varsity Blues. I love sport. I'm not a big sports guy, but I love a good sports movie, and this is one. It had me laughing, it had me caring for the characters, and it grips you with the story. So yeah, Varsity Blues, it's a great one. Trying to go faster, guy. I ramble too much. Next up, this is one that I had pre-ordered for a while after hearing about it for so long. This is a new Kino Lorber release of Stone Cold with Brian Bosworth, Lance Henriksen, and William Forsythe. And this is one hell of a movie. It starts off in the first act, goofy. Then you get in all your biker, action, motorcycle stuff in the second act. And then the third act of this turns into January 6th. Literally. And it is some of the craziest shit you will ever see. It does some really odd things story-wise, and I have not watched any of these special features because this thing's loaded with extras on here, and I'm honestly looking forward to checking that out. But crazier, it's always great seeing Lance Henriksen, and he's definitely having fun with the role he plays in this. It's not fantastic by any means. Like I said, the script to this thing is pretty terrible with where it goes in the third act and how the story is resolved. If you see the movie, you see why I'm putting that in quotes. But I was highly entertained watching it, even if parts near the end reminded me too much of recent historical events. Next up for our summer movie marathon, we have the Christian Slater 90s, I would say probably the ultimate teen angst film with Pump Up the Volume. Overall, it was okay. It's the 90s-ness of it is really strong. There is some laughter to be had with this. I was never a really angsty, anti-establishment kind of guy, so I'm not exactly in with the crowd that this is supposed to be speaking to. I was not expecting a car chase out of this, so there is something. So depending on the 90s nostalgia of this is really what kind of got me through it, and I love Christian Slater. Christian Slater's a great actor, so anything with him I most likely will gladly watch. I will still forgive him for Hollow Man 2, but no, I mean, it's entertaining. You know, you get into the story, you get somewhat into the characters. That's why I said I don't really have a background like this. I was never really angsty, so part of me was like, well, you people are moping way too much about this stuff. But I know this has a cult following, very 90s soundtrack, and you know, you get Christian Slater making a bunch of sex noises over radio, which is fun. Even though this does go to some, there's this whole suicide thing in there. I'm like, this movie tonally is kind of crazy, but it's entertaining nonetheless. It's a pretty entertaining watch. Now this is funny because this just recently came in the mail, and I had completely forgotten that I pledged to this. And I don't want to sound like a dick here, because when it comes to horror movies and stuff, I'm not big into the franchises. I am much more a fan of cool, underrated, one-off movies and TV shows. And with those bigger franchises, you get into the whole subculture of fan films. Never Hike Alone. And all Friday the 13th especially is one. And I don't follow any. I'm just not a fan film guy. And I really don't mean that to sound like a dick. It's just, I appreciate the time and effort. You know, you put it on YouTube and all that stuff. They get something for your reel, get some actors out there. You know, I wholeheartedly respect the art of making fan films. It's just not for me, and it's just, so typically I don't contribute to them. But this is an example of one I did contribute to way back in 2021. I contributed for a Blu-ray perk, just because I'm like, you know, I always had a soft spot for Part 7. You got Terry Kaiser, Lar Park Lincoln. I love Terry Kaiser. So, okay, you know what? I'll throw these guys a bone. I'll chip into their Indiegogo for their Blu-ray. 2 years went by, and I completely forgot about it. Like, oh shit, it must have been a scam or something. But evidently not, because 2 years later, the Blu-ray showed up at my door of Roseblood, a Friday the 13th fan film. I like how they did this artwork to kind of match the Scream Factory Blu-rays. I've only skimmed through this. It's a continuation of Friday the 13th Part 7. Lar Park Lincoln, Terry Kaiser, and the guy from Friday the 13th, The New Blood. The minuscule appearances, you know, it's mostly the fan film stuff, but it's a valiant effort from the parts that I kind of went through. The actors do a good job. It does get weird. You get to see Jason Voorhees versus Michael Myers. That is not something I ever thought I would say about a Friday the 13th Part 7 fan film that I contributed the Indiegogo to and forgot about subsequently, so yeah, that weird little anecdote there, but I don't know. That's what happens when you impulse buy stuff, kids. Even if I just did it for Terry Kaiser, who's not really in it much. Next, I'm a little late to the party on this one with Lawrence Fishburne and Sam Neill, Event Horizon. This is the Scream Factory Blu-ray. And this is a cool one. I didn't really know too much about Event Horizon going in, so when I found out it was Hellraiser in space, where this spaceship has gone to hell and back, and bringing with it all the demons and awful imagery of hell. But it's cool. The production design is really neat. The claustrophobia of being in space, and it helps someone like Lawrence Fishburne being at the helm, Sam Neill, who comes off so much like Pierce Brosnan, and this makes me wonder what it would have been like if he was in it. I know there was supposedly, well, not supposedly, there was a 2-hour really graphic cut of this that is lost. I think what we have here is fine, because when you see the real quick cuts and imagery of the disturbing hell imagery, I think seeing it only in extreme spurts kind of makes it more effective. And it's got a really cool horror atmosphere to it in space. So, you know, very Alien meets Hellraiser, even though that one character, I forget the character's name, he's the comic relief of this. He is so out of place. Like, when he's flying through space, I'm coming, motherfuckers! I was just kind of like, come again? But no, it's really good. Hellraiser in space meets Alien. Yeah, it's good stuff, and all the actors do their jobs well. I pre-ordered this because, again, I love some Siege kind of movies, and this one looked cool, this new Blu-ray of End of the Line, and I thought this sucked. Guys, I did not care for this one. It's boring, a bunch of people meandering around the subways with a supreme overuse of jump scares. Nobody's a good actor. The gore looks like haunted house effects. And then I realized this is by the same guy that did that really weird movie Slashers. I talked about it a couple updates ago. The one that's made to look entirely like a Japanese game show. Everything I said about that movie carries over into this. And I just don't get... I mean, these cool-looking creatures you see on the cover, they have a whopping 10 seconds of screen time, all in the final 10 seconds of the movie. Like, you have people meandering around, there's no tension, you don't give a shit about anyone. There's Maurice Devereaux, he's 0 for 2 for me now. At least Slashers was weird enough to get the ball rolling, but this was just lame and dull. I did not care for End of the Line. So moving on from End of the Line, we've got End of the Line. And the funny story, when I was looking that up, that is how I wound up on this, because I was looking that up on Letterboxd, and then this came up and I saw that cover and I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. There's an 80s movie with Wilford Brimley and Kevin Bacon. Give it here. And why does this movie feel like a snapshot into Wilford Brimley's life? It's in, I think, Oklahoma on the hot, sunny, steamy railroad. So, fits with the summer. And you got Wilford Brimley. Like I said, this might be the most Wilford Brimley movie that Wilford Brimley has ever Wilford Brimley'd. And you have Kevin Bacon in kind of this proto role for who he would go on to play in Tremors, even though he's playing much more of an obnoxious tool in this. And you've got Wilford Brimley and Levon Helm stealing a train to head on to Chicago, resulting in a fish out of water Wilford Brimley in his jean overalls walking around Chicago, diabetes. And it doesn't deliver itself quite as serious, as wacky as that sounds. It has some oddly serious moments where Wilford Brimley and Levon Helm are doing a suicide pact, but they don't go through with it, and then they end up shooting the train. Like, this is a weird, unknown 80s movie that I don't know a single person that has ever even addressed its existence. But that's what I'm here for, ladies and gentlemen. Why should I talk about Marvel movies and blockbusters when I can tell you about 80s movies like End of the Line, aka a docu-biopic on Wilford Brimley's life? At least what I imagine Wilford Brimley's life to look like. If that sounds interesting, then check out End of the Line. Now this one I absolutely loved. I had never seen this one before. I'm not familiar with the Broken Lizard guy. Super Troopers, Beer Fest, I know. The only one that I'm familiar with prior to this is Slammin' Salmon. So finally I got around, and again, the Sun, Sand and Sweat collection, Baywatch, all these summer movies I was buying, this was just another product of that. And I went with Club Dread, the unrated version. And guys, this was awesome. I was laughing my ass off this entire time. Bill Paxton as Coconut Pete might be one of my new favorite film characters, and soundtracks at that. All the Broken Lizard guys appear. You got MC Gainey. Who doesn't love it when MC Gainey shows up in seemingly everything? And what you have, it's very Scary Movie-ish in tone, where it's a whodunit murder mystery on this tropical Costa Rican island. And it's really zany, but oh my god, it's hilarious. There's always one fuckhead like you, trying to shit in the apple pie. Well, you just shat in the one apple pie that knows how to shit back. Like, hey, Pina Colada Berg is in this movie, guys. Pina Colada Berg. It's awesome. Yeah, this is the unrated version, so I don't know what the difference is with the theatrical. So be it, but I had an absolute ball with this, and it will most likely come back for a rewatch. That's how much fun I had with Club Dread. This one was a recommendation. My same friend that gave me the Belko Experiment and Zombeavers recommended. They were like, oh, because we were talking about the early 2000s, and they were like, oh, one of my favorites, you gotta see Swimfan. Oh my god, I love Swimfan. I had never heard of Swimfan, but when I was going around doing some of my shopping, they had it for $3, so I picked up Swimfan. And, it's there. It's a very by-the-numbers stalker thriller, with the only thing setting it apart the fact it's happening with high schoolers. It doesn't do anything out of the norm. I mean, it was good enough to where it kept my interest, and I wanted to see how it played out, even though I pretty much knew how it was going to play out, knowing this type of film. But like I said, it was good enough to where I watched it, and it kept me watching, it kept me engaged, but not good enough to the point where I would ever really think about it again. Unless you just really want to hear the 2002 soundtrack that it rocks, then by all means, the soundtrack is 2002 to the max. Although visually, it's a little bit more plain than at the high school they use in this is a very plain setting. I don't know if they were trying to go for more of a horror vibe with it. And the thing is, it's not that long of a movie, but there's 10 deleted scenes and stuff on here, so I have not checked any of that out, so I don't know. I mean, it's not one I'm ever really gonna think much about, but, you know, to my friend, I do appreciate the recommendation. If it's a film I never heard of course I'm gonna give it the go, see how it lands. This was 50 cents. It's one I have not watched yet. It's another one I picked up for the Paul Walker collection, which I am nearing completion of. It's going to be sad. So on top of Varsity Blues, I was aware of this because I know he has a very small, uncredited role in this. And I have not watched it yet. I just know he's uncredited and it's a small role. But it is the woman in prison thriller Brokedown Palace, which also has Bill Pullman and Lou Diamond Phillips in it, and I do like both of them, so I do look forward to checking this out. Just haven't had a chance to yet. Got it for the Paul Walker collection, so there we go. I do love me a good prison movie if it's done right. And this one sounded interesting. Again, it's a horror thriller. Never heard of it. Single location home invasion thriller. I figure why not? Let's give this a go. And it's never heard of it before. I've never heard of a single person involved with this before. It's this home invasion thriller called If I Die Before I Wake. And this is another one, guys. I thought this was pretty bad. When you have a home invasion thriller, the end credits start rolling at the 71-minute mark, and the movie still felt dragged out. And that's another thing is, it's very hollow. The movie just starts with this home invasion, these 3 yokel hillbillies breaking into this family's home. That's the opening scene. You don't know a thing about this family. 2 sisters, a brother, and the parents. I think you only find out the names of the sisters, because there are 2 focus characters here. Why are they breaking into this house? Literally no reason is ever given. It's just like we're thrust into a home invasion scenario. And even when the end credits start rolling at the 71-minute mark, it still felt like there were a lot of pacing points where I just felt, this feels slow, and there's really weird choices. Like, the villains, they take a break from terrorizing this family because the youngest daughter puts a tape of family memories in, which is the only glimmer of any kind of backstory you get for them. And then it tries to go really brutal. Like, full disclosure, there's a rape in this, but it doesn't show anything or linger on anything, but, you know, the implication is there. But yet it's filmed like it's a TV movie. Yeah, I did not think this was very good. I do like a good home invasion thriller, but this just, it felt like I was seeing half a movie. Like, it was really weird with that. So just watch Panic Room would be my thing. Paul Walker movies out of the way, Gary Busey movie. So every update I do the Paul Walker and the Gary Busey movies, and since I had Varsity Blues for this one for Paul Walker, I also went with a Gary Busey football movie. This is a bootleg I got online because it's apparently a really hard film to find. It is a biopic from 1984, The Bear, where Gary Busey plays Bear Bryant from the University of Alabama. I don't know what the deal is, why this was so hard to get. The rumor is the Bryant family hated it, so they pretty much bought the rights and didn't sign off on releasing it. I don't know, but overall as a biopic, it's not that bad. This guy has a very long career, so this movie doesn't spend too much time at any point in it. It does jump forward quite a bit. But you know me, I love buying these Busey movies because it's Busey being Busey. And I was wondering, I'm like, oh, well, he's playing a real guy, a football coach, so maybe this one will be more toned down. One of the first scenes of this movie is Gary Busey wrestling a real live bear. And he did it for real. So hell yeah, my money was worth it. But it's a pretty good biopic too. Like I watched it with my dad. And we were like, well, it kind of sucks this was never released. This really is not that bad. And even though Busey and the actual Bear Bryant look absolutely nothing alike, I enjoyed my time with it. It's a very worthy addition to the Busey collection. And this is a documentary that I really liked. And it comes courtesy of a good guy I follow on YouTube. His name is Mark Nelson, and he runs a cool channel called The Cinemaniacs. Does a lot of new release reviews of home media from Arrow Video, NBD, movies in the theater. Good guy, Mark Nelson, check him out. And in one of his recent videos, he was plugging this documentary he was in called At the Drive-In, which takes place where he works at the Mahoning Drive-In Theater, as he would say, in Lehighton, Pennsylvania. And evidently my copy of this came from Douglas County Libraries in Colorado. Thankfully, everything is on the disc. It's not pirated or anything. It's an authentic copy. I just thought that was weird. I got this custom disc from the Colorado Library. This is an awesome documentary. You get this quirky cast of characters, Mark included, who all save their Mahoning Drive-In Theater when they are unable to move to digital, so they make the move to stay 35mm showing classic film, which ends up being the #1 draw of the theater. And you just go through all the different people that work there, all the troubleshooting they do, all the events they have. It makes me actually want to visit the Mahoning Drive-In. I'm in the Midwest. I have yet to visit Pennsylvania, actually. It's a state I have not been to yet. So I would not mind at all to visit this drive-in. And this documentary, it's very wholesome. It's very feel-good. There is a drive-in about 2 hours from me, the Midway Drive-In, that the Mia and Mike Kurz, who run the Flashback Weekend Horror Convention, all the net proceeds from that convention go to keeping the Midway Drive-In in Dixon, Illinois alive. If anybody's interested in that, look it up, support them, Flashback Weekend. But yeah, fantastic documentary. Definitely check out Mark Nelson, Cinemaniacs on YouTube. He's how I found out about this. He is a dedicated soul. He's the guy in this documentary who drives 6.5 hours from, oh God, I think he's in New Hampshire or Vermont, one of the two, driving from there to Pennsylvania. So that's dedication. So I don't know if he still does that or not. I don't know where he lives, but that's so funny. So if he could do that, I'm sure I could make the trek from Illinois to Pennsylvania. And lastly, I just received this today. Like I said, I have not had a chance to watch this yet, but this is a summer movie update, so I wanted to get it out early in the summer. So I'm looking forward to watching this, though. It is the first season of Tulsa King with Sylvester Stallone. I've heard nothing but good things about it. This is the Steelbook. I don't exclusively collect Steelbooks or anything like that. I found this for a good price online. I thought it looked cool, so I snagged it. And I've heard nothing but good things about the show, so I do want to check it out. So I look forward to digging into Tulsa King. So there you go. If anyone in the comments has watched this, please let me know. I've got a nice little band of regulars going here. You know, you get Bones in the Necro Zoo, the Kentucky Contator, D with the Movie Bay. I've got a nice little band of followers going here, and I like that we kind of have a small group, because it doesn't feel like I'm making a video for YouTube. It just feels like a group of friends having a movie discussion. So if you have any comments about any of the movies I've talked about below, let me know. Share your summer fun in the sun attire here. And so yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this update for Sunday, June 11th, 2023. I've got a busy summer ahead, which is another reason I wanted to get this out of the way soon. Got a lot coming up here, second half of June, July, August, so buckle up, because it's going to be a fun ride, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for watching. Take care, and we will talk to you soon.